Somewhere out west, riding along the prairie, is a duo looking for people in distress to help, or bad guys. And our duo was the Lone Ranger and Tonto. The Lone Ranger and Tonto were riding through the prairie, looking for bad guys, when they hear a scream. Ah! Tonto goes, "Kimosabi, I heard a scream." The Lone Ranger goes, "I heard it. I'm not deaf." So they spurred their horses and ran up the hill. They get to the top of the hill. They stop. Down at the bottom of the hill, they see a dusty little town out somewhere in the prairie. And then they hear a scream again. Ah, help! So they spur their horses and down the hill they run. They get to the town, and there's one street going down this town, and they look down at the other end of the street, and they see a lady standing out in the street in front of a church. And she's hollering for help. "Help me, somebody help me." So they take off down the street. As they approach the lady, she kind of furrows her brow, looks at them through the dusty sunlight, and then her eyes kind of wide. She sees this white man with a mask on and an engine riding toward her. She turns and runs into the church and slams the door behind her. Well, they're kind of puzzled. Well, here we are to help, and what's wrong? So they ride on up to the church, get off of their horses. And they're kind of cautious at this point because they're not wondering what's going on. This lady runs into the church. She wants help. So they make their way up the steps of the church, and they open the door slowly to peek inside. They look inside the church, look around. They don't see anybody in the church. So they decide to venture inside. They take a step. Ka-cloom. 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 The Lone Ranger, he's wearing cowboy boots. Ka-cloom. Ka-cloom. Eee. Ka-cloom. Eee. The Lone Ranger has moccasins on, but the boards are made of wood and they're squeaky. Ka-cloom. Eee. Ka-cloom. Eee. Ka-cloom. Eee. The Lone Ranger starts to get a little nervous about this time. This lady was hollering for help. Obviously, she needed some help. She runs into the church, doesn't see anybody, doesn't see her. He's thinking something's not right, so he gets nervous. So he pulls out his 6-shooter. He's ready. Ka-cloom. Eee. Ka-cloom. Eee. About that time, the lady jumps up from behind one of the pews that she had been hiding, and she runs out the back door. Well, this startles the Lone Ranger when she jumps up. He accidentally fires off his 6-shooter. And when that gun went off, it startled Tonto, and he faints. The Lone Ranger shakes his head. He's getting really perturbed. So he puts his 6-shooter back in his holster. Picks up Tonto, throws him on his shoulder, heads for the door. I've had enough of this. When he goes out the front door, he sees a band of Indians has gathered on the other side of the street. And they look at him carrying this Indian on his shoulder. He's wearing a mask. And they don't look too happy. So they pull out their tomahawks. The Lone Ranger is getting really ticked by this stuff because he's out there to help people. So he makes his way down the steps, drops Tonto to the ground, bloop, pulls his 6-shooter back out, fires it off in the air. Boom! The engines reel back. The sound of the gun startles Tonto and he jumps to his feet. Looks around. He looks at the engines. The engines look at him. And they're puzzled at this time. Okay. He looks at the Lone Ranger, looks at the engines, realizing that his bravery has been put into question now. Because he was fainted, he wasn't hurt. The engines look at him like, you're not much of an engine. So he's all embarrassed. And his face turns beet red. And that's where the term Redman came from. Okay.